Hi everybody, this is Anne. The easiest geometric shape to create with clay is the circle. But after making so many round mugs, bowls, and cups, it's natural to want to experiment with more complicated shapes. But I certainly don't want to have to do the math or make exacting cuts. I've heard it might be possible to do this using tar paper, so I thought I would experiment and see for myself. For these projects, I'm using just regular roofing felt number 30 that I purchased at my local hardware store. It comes in tall, heavy rolls, but some stores will let you tear off the amount you want to purchase, just ask. The material is stiff, yet just flexible enough for our purposes. It actually tears like regular paper, but it's sturdy enough not to buckle or rip when wet. The best part is that you can cut a shallow score on the paper, then when you fold it, it makes a nice straight angle. One side of the felt has a plain tar backing. The opposite side has faint lines on it. I'm going to draw my template on the side with the lines. I'm using a wallpaper knife blade to make the scores just shallow enough not to cut through the tar backing. Once the template was cut out, I pre-bent the felt along all the scores to prepare it. Jim created this template for me that wraps nicely around the carpet tube, leaving enough room for the slab. The template and the size of the carpet tube are in the description section below. Let's see if we can make an octagonal tumbler with this template. The first thing I did was to make a 1/4 inch slab. It's important to use clay that's a bit more on the drier side because it's harder to peel away the tar paper from wetter clay. I rolled out the clay on a plastic pastry mat between 2 rulers, then ribbed it with a wet red rib. The water from the rib will help the tar paper to adhere to the clay, but it's not so much water as to cement the two together. Before putting the template down on my slab, I checked to see which way the tar paper folds. It should fold inward so the tar backing is on the inside. It's important to place the tar paper side down on the clay. I slowly rolled the template so it embedded into the clay. This will help adhere the two surfaces and also shrink the width of the slab so it'll fit around the carpet tube with a little bit of give. It seems pretty tight to the surface. Now I can cut it out and remove the excess clay. The slab will be stuck to the plastic mat, so I just turned it over and slowly peeled it away from the mat. Instead of beveling the edges of the slab like usual, this technique only requires scoring of each exposed side edge. I put that aside and prepared the carpet tube. I just cut some plastic wrap out, wet the first edge with water to get it to stick to the tube. I rolled the plastic around the tube and repeat with water when you get to the other edge. Back to the slab, I wet the scored edge with water until it was very slippy. Now I was ready to place the slab around the tube. I made sure the seam was nice and tight together. I then used my rubber rib over each of the flat edges of the template to flatten down each section and try to begin the imprint of the angles. I also used my fingers along each side of the scores on the tar paper. Taking advantage of the give between the tube and the slab, I pinched the clay inward towards each score to define each angle. You can see this clearly along the rim. I turned the whole thing over and slid the piece to the bottom of the tube and continued with this pinching around the foot. Next, I removed the tar paper. I was careful to slowly peel it away from the surface without stretching the clay. If you do have a little stretching, you can rib it flat again with your red rib while the clay is steadied by the carpet tube. For the floor of the tumbler, I like to use the pottery wheel, but you can do this on a banding wheel too. I just placed a large enough slab in the center of the wheel, then placed the body on top and traced around it. I scored the bottom of the body and around the inside of the traced area. I added slip to the scored area, then lined up the body to the floor, firmly pressing it into place. I cut the excess clay away around the tumbler. I used my fingers to firm up the connection of the bottom to the body. I ribbed the two edges together for a smooth transition. I cut the top of the rim so it was straight, then removed the tube from the clay. The plastic came out with it, but if it doesn't, then you can peel away the plastic. I also added a coil at the inside bottom. Here's one I made earlier where I painted it with underglaze and bisque fired it. Now here it is all glazed and fired. I think by converting this to an octagon, it gives the form a complexity that complements the intricate design, especially the geometry of the border. Here's another variation of the octagon where clay bottoms extended the template to create spiky feet. A floor was added by using a coil on the inside to create a shelf, and then a round slab was positioned over that and sealed in place with another coil. Check out the link above. For the next experiment, instead of straight angled walls, let's build a pentagon with slanted angles. Here's the template that Jim created for me. It actually has 10 triangles that interlock and come together. The link for this template is in the description section. For the mold it wraps around, I used a styrofoam cone that I found at the craft store. I had to cut a bit of the cone off at the bottom for a better fit for the template, but I think it'll work for what I need it to do. Like the octagon, I embedded the template into the clay slab and cut away the excess clay. I turned over the slab and peeled away the plastic pastry mat. I rolled the cone in plastic wrap. I scored the short ends of the slab and slipped them. Then I wrapped the slab around the cone and attached the ends together. I used a red rib against each triangle to begin the shaping process. I had a lot of extra room at the top rim to pinch in the edges to form the 5 angled sides. I did the same pinching to the bottom edge, then carefully peeled away the template. Like the octagon, I traced the bottom edge onto the slab for a floor. This time, I had to take the cone out before I could attach the body to the floor. It might be best to wait until the body is dried and stiffened a bit before attaching the two to avoid distorting the shape you just made. But to finish the video, I'll go ahead and attach it now, following the same steps as before. I dropped a coil on the inside and used the end of a paintbrush to push the coil along the seam and seal the clay. The inside of the octagon was still round, but I wanted the inside of this piece to match the angular pattern of the outside. So I used the edge of the ruler on the inside of each line and ribbed the outside along each of the angles to get a nice crisp line. Now that's what I wanted. Here's one I made that's leather hard. I can now use a metal rib on the outside to really sure up the edges and create nice crisp angles. I use my fingers down the very narrow parts of the triangles to get fine points. Here's one I made earlier that's hand-painted and bisque fired. I glazed and fired it to cone 5 with a 4-minute hold for this beauty. I made the border divisions of the design at each angle to complement the shape. Finally, I tried one more experiment to see if I could use the tar paper to create a piece that twisted. Here's the template I used for that. See how the sides angle around, but the top rim still centers over the bottom. I found two forms to use with this. One was a mail tube cut down to size, and the other was a cut pool noodle. I followed the same steps as before to come up with this interesting piece. Here it is, all glazed and fired. I was hoping it would have a bit more of a twist to it, but this piece is rather interesting and I really like it. Of course, there are a lot more possibilities for complex forms using the tar paper because of its ease of cutting and rigidity. I challenge you to design your own complex forms and try constructing with it. Thanks to the newest members of our Little Street Pottery Research Facility team. If you'd like to join the team and earn a title, click on the Super Thanks button or the link to buy me a coffee. It really helps us out if you hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. See you next time in the studio.